You've grunged it out to living in the 90s. You've sung along with your kids to Kids Bop. You turned it up to Freedom Rock. Now, get ready for the softer side of cybersecurity with Sunsets and Snowdrifts, including all your favorite hits, like Don't Go Breaking My Encryption. Don't go breaking my encryption. I can't fight this phishing anymore. And I can't fight this phishing anymore. We will patch you. We will patch you. I want to know who logged this. I want to know who logged this. And who could forget, how am I supposed to live without BCISO? How am I supposed to live without BCISO? And who came up with this amazing compilation of cybersecurity hits, you might ask? It's your podcast host, Senior Sunset and Mr. Snowdrift, Evan and Kennedy.
All right. Awesome stuff, man. That is a really great selection of hits. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I love the curly hair one too. I wish I could grow mine out like that.
Yeah. Hey, so today is a very special episode of Sunsets and Snowdrifts. We are recording. So actually, it is not live today, so there will not be any Q&A or questions. However, if you have questions at the end of this,
I got some cues for you.
Definitely, 100%. Feel free to email us at info@securitystudio.com if you have questions. You can send those in after the podcast. Awesome to see you guys. How are you?
Doing well.
Doing well. Doing fantastic.
And yeah, it's
You know, that song.
It's not common for people to say it's awesome to see me, so it's cool.
Well, you know, I think if they're coming there to the sunsets of Mexico and they get there and they arrive at the station, you pick them up, they probably say it's pretty awesome to see you.
So it's kind of bullshit. It's not really me. It's like the sunset, right?
It is, partially that, but when you're there to pick people up, it's good to see you.
Yeah. You don't discount your value.
Yeah, you don't want to just end up in Mexico and be like, let me find my way to Evan.
your sunny's face too. Yeah.
Let me get on a few buses and trains or whatever they have there. Mules, get up to the hill.
Especially you arrive at the house and then the door opens and then you pop out and it's like, oh, this is thank God.
I do think I could do something with this. I think I could maybe barber it or something.
No.
Yeah, you could do something for sure.
No.
Well, like I said, we have a very special episode today. Do you guys remember when we were kids and every sitcom had a very special episode? It just reminds me of that. Like, it's I don't know.
Do you remember that?
It was like the bully, like Evan looks like one of those bully episodes right now.
It reminds me
of that earlier with your hands. Get your hands up.
Do you remember that joke as a kid? It was Chubby. My name's Chubby, and I ride on the back of my dad's motorcycle. And then you go like this. So we go really fast.
Hey guys, is it good to see me now?
Yes.
I love it. See what we can do when it's
got serious stuff. We're security people. We don't.
Yeah, we are.
Frank, so get us in order here. What are we doing?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, today's topic is going to be pretty interesting, pretty fun. So, cybersecurity compliance, how to avoid the pitfalls of a checkbox mindset. I think that's super interesting because, I'm hearing this all the time. Actually, I was on a call the other day and we had one of our potential partners say, I'm gonna just standardize on this specific framework for everyone. And it was like, that's kind of interesting. All right, well, maybe not, but we'll get more into that. But I thought that really kind of fit well into this. But with that, jumping into this, what's to you guys, what does compliance mean? What is that? What is compliance?
Well, that's a great question. And that's a question I think a lot of people don't ask themselves, to be honest. I ask people, we're going so fast and things are, whatever, and we just assume that everybody knows what the hell this is. I mean, everybody knows what information security is, but then when I ask, you know, a 20, 30-year veteran, hey, give me your definition of information security, well, oh, you know, and then they give some definition. And it's typically, there's parts to it that fit with my definition, but it's not the same definition. And I think the same thing with compliance. I like to simplify everything. So to me, compliance is nothing more than doing what you've been told to do. That's it. It's not information security. Information security is risk management. So when you marry those things, it's what somebody's told you to do with the purpose potentially of risk management, which then leads to the intent of the law and the letter of the law. You know, you'd mentioned, you know, frameworks. Doing things that a framework says is maybe one form of compliance, but it's not truly compliance. Compliance would be coming from a regulatory authority like Department of Health and Human Services, you know, for HIPAA compliance. Maybe it's GLBA compliance, you know, coming from FFIEC, you know, through that, you know, so compliance is interesting, but it's not the same as information security at all. So I'll let Mike answer too.
I agree with everything you say. So unfortunately,
Wow.
just listening to you talk, I was like nodding my head. Yes.
I agree too, Evan. I agree.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't know what else
Well,
to add there.
yeah, I mean,
I have analogies that you think about from a compliance standpoint in the letter of the law, and you know, like with my kids, and my son always asks, "What's my curfew?" And I'm like, "Well, you know, our city, our state says you can't be outside of the house after this certain time, 11 o'clock or midnight, whatever it is." And he's like, "Well, then what's my curfew?" The letter of the law says this. You want me to interpret it some way to say, well, it's okay because you're my kid and we can break the law and have it be later or earlier. But it's the same thing, you know. And I agree with you. I think people get caught up in the where compliance and how compliance fits in their business and all of the different, like you said too, and Frank mentioned it, the frameworks, and how everybody feels that compliance is tied to those frameworks versus tied to a specific compliance or law, like you said, HIPAA, GLBA, SEC, you know, some of those other ones. So
yeah, and I like to use the analogy, like a lot of people, you know, who have kids will be able to resonate with this. It's a lot of it's the difference I mean, it fits a little bit. The difference between, you know, telling your kids to clean the room and your kids actually wanting to clean the room.
Yep.
The difference is completely different, right? And so you got the letter of the law, the intent of the law. And now to make things even more confusing, you know, recently the US Supreme Court, you know, addressed the Chevron doctrine, which what that was, or is, or sort of was you'd pass a law. So, you know, you take HIPAA, for instance, that's an act, that's a law that it goes through Congress, they all pass it, it gets signed into law by the president, and then it gets pushed to a government agency to interpret and enforce that law. So that's kind of how those things sort of work. Now with the Chevron doctrine, it was left up to the agency to interpret what the intent of the law was, right? So then they would go out and audit or, you know, fine you, whatever they decide to do. But with the recent, you know, knock it down of the Chevron doctrine, now you can challenge that, right? And challenge the interpretation that comes from the government agency. So it's really going to do some weird things with how they decide to enforce things from a compliance perspective. Now, from a business owner perspective, trying to navigate all of this.
Yeah, it's a mess.
The intent of every one of these laws, the intent of the security rule, for instance, in HIPAA, the intent of GLBA when protecting client information, the intent is information security. The intent is risk management. The interpretation, the letter, you know, how we take that and actually apply it leads to this checkbox thing. This is why compliance is really a shitty way to do information security, because you got to continue to navigate and change focus and change direction. Chances are pretty good you don't run your business that way. You need to integrate information security risk management into your business. And then when
Mhm.
all this compliance stuff wobbles, and it's up to whatever interpretation, you're still okay because the intent all along was risk management.
Right.
So compliance it's got a really shady side to it, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I
Well,
think go ahead, Michael, for sure.
I was gonna say, and like you talk about too a little bit, is when you look at all these different frameworks, they use different language, they use different, and it's different interpretations of the compliance stuff. But when you like peel back them, they're all the same. So if you, like you just said, if you implement that security first approach and you implement the information security in your business, then you're going to be able to pull out of that and I hate this word, this phrase, but check the boxes to show how you have that compliance in each one of those frameworks and each one of those compliance related um, laws. So,
Right. Well, and you miss out too on all because when you do information security correctly, there are so many advantages for your business. Right.
correct.
You
Yeah.
streamline business. Complexity is the worst enemy of information.
Mhm.
You can streamline, simplify. And most people are like, no, you can't. Well, then you're not doing it right. Or
Right.
whoever's consulting you hasn't been consulting you right, because there are so many advantages, competitive advantages for top line, and certainly efficiency advantages, simplification advantages for the bottom line. So whether you're interested in getting more sales or getting more profit, you can use security in both ways. When you do the compliance checklist piece, you miss out on all those advantages. You can't integrate it with the business to make more money. And then on the other side, there's still another side to this, because we like to overcome thing. Every time a new compliance initiative comes out, you'll see our industry, oh my God, we got a solution for this. And they go out
Yeah.
pushing solutions to customers when it doesn't fit. Right.
Right.
They see this as a sales advantage. So the wolves put on their sheep's clothing and they're out ready for the hunt. We see this with CMMC all the time.
Yeah. Yep. Agreed.
CMMC,
Yeah.
CMMC. I get asked this all the time. I got asked this from a college professor yesterday. Well, do you guys address CMMC? I'm like, why would we? Well, she goes, well, it's a really important, true, it's important, but it only addresses about 7% of the private sector. It's only the private sector that does business with the Department of Defense, or, through a vendor who does business with the Department of Defense. It doesn't affect most people. So why would I ever go and sell somebody a CMMC compliance solution when it's a complete waste of money for them?
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
what happens in the industry from people that don't know any better.
Yeah,
Right.
that makes sense. So how does the, MSP or IT or the cybersecurity consultant or whoever get this message across to the business owner who says, I just need to check these boxes. I don't give a shit. I just want to, what is it going to cost me to check these boxes, right? I mean,
Well,
how do you change that mindset essentially of, hey, we need to do really good information security, and as we do that, we're going to meet the needs of those different compliances and all of that. How do you change that? What could you say to somebody?
Well, for me, you always need three things. You need trust, credibility, and likability in order to resonate with that customer. So if you've brought this, to their attention, for one thing, I think a lot of people don't even say anything about it. Maybe they don't know enough about it. And so like, okay, well, yeah, we'll get you compliant, right away. And this is the price. And, you got to ask yourself, am I actually doing a good service for my customer? This is a service industry and you're not serving your customer well. If you're okay with that, then that's probably the route you're going to go anyway. But the other thing is to build, if you have the trust and the credibility and the likability with your customer, you can show them why yes, you need to be compliant, right? It's the law. You can't not do it, but let's do it the right way. So let's take information security, as a not really necessarily larger, but maybe a slightly different focus. The focus is information security. It's risk management. And let's build compliance into that. So let's get you compliant with all these things, but let's not be so short-sighted that all we're going to do is check the box. We're going to check the box in the context of a larger, program, so that by the time we get there, we can just continue to expand and build it. That's probably the way.
Yeah, I agree with you because we see a lot of that from the cyber liability insurance and from that side too. Customers want, MFA so they can check the box. And but then they don't understand where they put MFA or and we're seeing other things along those lines like conditional access, like firewall management, and to your point, it's having that relationship with them. And this is when you get this customer, or at least our belief is the same as when we get this customer, our goal is to build that relationship. This is a long-term conversation. Yes, we can help you check the box today, but that doesn't help your information security. This is where these are the threats. These are what we need to plan for. This is how we need to kind of build this roadmap for your organization, because instead of having the mentality, we can put a project together, charge you 10, 20 grand to implement a couple of things for you to meet your compliance. I want to sit with you and say, okay, how do I get your business to beat your competitor across the street? What are they doing? And they're not looking at it as a checkbox to just get cyber liability insurance or a CMCC certification or whatever it takes. They're looking at it from more of a strategic standpoint, and they're, how do we make you around? How do we make you grow? That type of stuff. So
I mean, at the end
trust,
of the day,
credibility, likability, exactly what you said.
well, at the end of the day, right, most businesses are in business to make money.
Yeah.
So how can I leverage this to make the most money, not just now, but longer term?
Correct. Yeah.
And risk management is the way to do that, knowing that whatever compliance initiative there is, that was the intent anyway. So why leave all the interpretation? Because there are also many examples, and I think there's just a lot of, education needed for a lot of practitioners.
Mhm.
Because many times when I've sat across from, an FDIC examiner and they've asked, going through the checklist, do you do this? No, we don't do that. And here's the risk justification for why we don't do that. It would be stupid for the bank to spend $100,000 to check that box when we've addressed the risks in other ways. And depending on who your examiner is, okay, maybe they get it,
Right.
but it's just stupid to force me to do something that's not in my best interest, that's not effective, in reducing or mitigating risk. You'll run into that too. Why would I waste $100,000 to check this damn box? Yeah, I went, the mentality of a CEO. So, or potentially, that same kind of CEO, like I need to get compliant as quickly and as inexpensively as possible, right? Check the boxes, right? Check.
Yep.
This check's going to cost you 10 grand. This check's going to cost you 100 grand. Whereas if you would have done the security thing, your assessment, roadmap, whatever, you saved $80,000-$90,000 by not checking some of those boxes because you already addressed the risk.
Right.
It's a stupid way to do it, honestly.
Well, and you just talked a little bit about it with the examiners too. I've always seen. I'm trying not to pick on people. Fuck it. SOC 2. You see all of these SOC 2 compliance stuff, and it's like not letter of the law, not understanding the risk associated with it. Like physical access controls. Are your walls the deck in your server room? No. Well, okay, fail. Well, no, you don't understand. It's secured access to the facility, only the, blah, 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 and mitigating that risk, reducing that risk, because, and I'm going to pick on MFA, but MFA is the biggest culprit of this because people don't understand what MFA is. They don't understand what the ask is. Do you have MFA? Yeah, I do. I have a key fob and I have to press the button on my car to get in it. I have MFA. Okay. I check the box that I have MFA. It doesn't matter that I can, you have, wide open access to my email or my computer or whatever, but that mentality of, MFA on what? MFA on the portals, MFA on your email, MFA on your workstation. No, I don't know. Just do you have MFA?
Yeah, that's some of the
So
problem, right? It doesn't go deep enough, right?
doesn't
So
go
an
deep enough.
box
Don't
is
exceed.
only one
Yeah,
portion of what you should be looking at.
correct.
It doesn't
And it
go deep
comes-
enough to understand all the things that go inside of
Right. But
thinking about that risk.
if you come with that security first approach, that focus on information security as a business, then you identify where is our risk as an organization, and then you can identify that phishing, BEC, credential compromise is the big risk. So we'll put MFA on our cloud app or our 365 or Google Workspace, whatever. And then, so that's where you put your security. You're not putting, putting MFA on your workstation, but not putting it on your 365 is nonsense. If you allow people to log into 365 from other, web accounts, their phones, whatever, because you can compromise a phone or send you an email to your personal accounts to log in. Anyway, so
one of the
I
worst, I would rather not spend any information security dollars than misspend information security dollars. Right? You don't
Yeah.
spend information security dollars just for the sake of spending information security dollars, and you don't get compliant for the sake of information security either.
mm-mm.
We've talked about some of these, but one of the dangers too is this false sense of security. I can't tell you how many
Yeah.
times I've done an incident response but we had our SOC 2. It's like, oh, great. Because
we have an EDR
yeah,
that should take care of it.
it's one of the huge things about, and I get asked this, I have been asked this a lot, is what's the one thing? I mean, if you had like one piece of advice that you could give me from information security, what would it be? And it comes down to situational awareness. It comes down to understanding the situation around you, the environment you operate in, the things you have. It's about this. And so when you do just checkbox, you miss that biggest thing, situational awareness. You'll learn a whole bunch of things when you go through the compliance thing, but you didn't learn everything. You didn't learn enough.
No.
And it's also the checkbox mentality leads to this checkbox, I'm done. Like I've arrived.
Right. Correct.
I'm close to arriving. There's no such thing as arriving. So
Right.
just a really dangerous mentality throughout that we have to avoid all these pitfalls along the way.
Yeah, so going back to that, the guy I talked to who said, I'm just going to do this specific framework for all of my clients. Are they doing, knowing that there's a difference between framework and compliance, are they doing a disservice to their clients if they're doing that for specific way for everybody? Or, should they be looking at it differently? Or, is a framework basically a set of guidelines that they're kind of following? Is that a good idea then for them
Yeah,
to do?
I like frameworks because frameworks are, for a number of reasons. One, it's just a tool. It's a reference tool that allows me to reference maybe parts, gaps that maybe I wasn't thinking of so from that perspective, it's really nice because it provides you guidance, right? So the framework's this. Okay, then take that and apply it to your environment. If we didn't do that, what would be the likelihood and the impact of something bad happening because I didn't do that thing that the framework said? Now, if the risk is low, well, then you don't do that thing. You know what I mean? So the framework is really nice to provide you that guidance. It's a nice tool to reference. It comes down to how you use it. I think another thing about
do you feel that there's a one size fit all framework though?
No. Well, yes, it's like a hammer. I mean, a hammer
Yeah.
works for everybody. It's just how to use the damn hammer. So I
Right.
like
Yeah.
the one reason I really like NIST CSF is it's if you want the prescriptive guidance, you can go to the informative references and you can get the prescriptive guidance. But in terms of how the framework is structured, it provides a lot of flexibility to make decisions along the way, right? When you talk about risk management, it's start with an assessment, then make your risk decisions, right? Your risk decisions, accept, mitigate, transfer, avoid, and then make a plan for those things that weren't acceptable. The NIST CSF provides a good structure to operate that mentality in, and that's how security actually works. NIST, SP 800-53, not my favorite. It would be an informative reference in the larger framework of NIST CSF, but using that as a framework, it's too prescriptive. It's not business friendly. Wouldn't be my choice. So I mean, you got to know the different frameworks and which one applies best for you.
Yeah, and I guess based on that question, for all your clients too, would you choose CMMC over NIST?
No, I would never choose
Right.
CMMC.
Right. And
It's
so,
not even, I mean, they say call it a framework. It's not. It's a compliance initiative with a framework.
Yeah, and that's the hard part is for, the folks getting into this now is understanding all of these intricacies and all these different things and frameworks and compliances. And, you have a lot of folks out there talking about, the opportunity of compliance, right? And I think that in itself is a disservice, I think, because as you've been saying, really the opportunity today is every business. It doesn't matter whether they are in this compliance box or not, needs to be doing good security within their business. And so the opportunity is much greater than this specific niche or vertical of compliance, DoD or whoever. So I think there's a lot of folks out there talking to people and saying, hey, you should get into compliance, where really they should be saying you should get into security. If anything, do you guys agree with that?
Absolutely. I mean, because I've done lots of compliance work, but the right way to do compliance work is from a security perspective, right? It's not, we do security from a compliance perspective. It's, it's getting your priorities straight, understanding where one fits with the other. I think a lot of people, it's money, right? I mean, from a practitioner's perspective, I mean, like, what a great opportunity for me to have a conversation with my customer and get them to do something and pay me a bunch of money. And I don't really know if it fits for them or not, but I'm going to do it.
right.
And then the customer wonders, oh my God, we had a breach, right? And it cost me 10 times the price of this damn compliance initiative. And I should have known it, right? Because most breaches that you investigate, it's like obvious. Like, had you done an information security risk assessment, had you had even, a third grader's understanding of situational awareness, right? You don't even, I think there's a big movement. There's always been a big movement in our industry to confuse people, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
And confusion is money, right? If you're confused, then I can leverage emotion for you to buy stuff like fear. Oh my God, you're going to get breached. And you want the OCR to come knocking on your door?
Yeah.
All right. That's
FUD. Yep.
So
weaponized FUD. Yep.
yeah.
Yeah. My, the favorite one that it's an MSP one that I heard, and I've talked about this before, Frank, is where there's mystery, there's margin. This mentality of creating mystery in SKUs, creating mystery in services, creating mystery in compliance. You gotta check this box or you're gonna get fined. You're gonna have your business shut down, and that throws out the trust, credibility, and the likability that you talked about earlier, right?
And that's the crazy thing, because we've seen over and over and over again in our own practice, there's actually more margin and clarity.
Correct.
You open and they like, oh, okay, now I see this. I need to fix these things and investment. But now we all know that you're fixing the right things for the right reasons. There's no mystery to this.
Correct.
So the margin and mystery is bullshit, because take vCISO services at like FR Secure, they're 50% margin. And it's all about clarity. It's all about simplicity. It's all about helping them make good information security risk decisions. And it's not taking money. You sleep well at night every day knowing that you did right by the customer, versus I don't know how these jackasses sleep at night selling people things out of that fear. And they may not even know that they're doing it. That's the crazy thing. So they're so ignorant about what security is, that they're ignorant about what it is they're selling, and ignorant about the damage that they're causing. It's like, man, or, and if you are not ignorant about those things and you're still doing it, you're evil.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you have
Agreed.
to truly believe in what you're providing to someone, right? Which is you're there to help them not get breached, not have issues, not have security problems, right? And if you can, from a sales perspective in your organization, if you can truly understand and believe that and know that that's what you're there for, that's a whole different conversation than you're having than selling these things that are, at the end of the day, high margin, whatever, right? And I think that's important because, um, we're all on this mission, right? Which is the end of the day to help businesses, really not have these issues, right?
Right.
Get caught
How
up
much
in.
trouble does a doctor get into for prescribing a drug for the sense of prescribing a drug that actually kills somebody?
Yeah.
There's just so much lack of education, even within our own community, other security people. I guess the older you get, the more you're like, you get wisdom and experience over the years, but you see some of the advice that other security people are giving companies, and it's like, no, don't do that.
Yeah.
Think,
Right.
take it back a notch or two. Um, and the same thing is with compliance. It really irritated the shit out of me when, we learned that MSPs were pushing CMMC compliance so hard.
Yeah.
Universally, everybody needs to be CMMC compliant. It's like, these are small to mid-sized businesses. Why would I waste, 10,
Right.
$20,000 on something that's going to provide no value?
Right.
Yeah. I think that speaks to Evan, and you might want to talk about this. Like, it always has stuck with me. Like you said at one point, why would you ever put yourself in a compliance box, or why would a business put themselves there, or why would an MSP put someone in that specific box, right? What did you mean by that? And like, can you elaborate on that specific idea or mindset?
Well, there's lots of problems with it. I mean, for one, I'm letting somebody else dictate what I'm doing with my business.
Hmm.
And I'm supposed to be the leader of the business. Leaders typically aren't looking for other people to tell them what to do all the time, right? You lead. And so we're taking the business here. Compliance is, we're going to dictate the direction of your business. In some cases, really significantly, cost a whole bunch of money. And we always got to be wondering, what value is this providing to the business, and my direction and my vision for this business? If it doesn't fit, even in some cases, I think businesses, like, take Department of Defense, CMMC stuff, right? So I'm running a business, I have a vision for this business, and it's to grow it this way and take it this, innovate, do whatever we're going to do. And now I need to be CMMC compliant, and it's going to take us a different direction. It's going to steal resources from what we were going to do to innovate and grow and whatever else, and we're going to have to put it over here. And in some cases, it makes sense. It doesn't even make sense to, maybe kill that business, meaning kill the Department of Defense business and go a different direction with your business. But compliance can put you in this box where you now have to operate. And if you've spent
Right.
enough time, enough money, enough direction, the original vision you had for your business is no longer the vision. Now the vision for the business is, we're Department of Defense contractor, and that's all we do now. And we just sit in the box all the time.
Yeah.
It stifles innovation.
Yeah, that
Yep.
makes a ton of sense. Michael, you mentioned it's like security first approach earlier. And where do you think that falls? Does that fall on the business owner, the IT department, the MSP, the IT cybersecurity consultant? Who should be informing who to bring that strategy to a business? Is that
I think it's
where should that
everybody.
come from?
It's everybody, but the accountable person is the CEO, because it's their business. But the consultants should come with a security first mindset. The internal team should come with a security mindset. The CEO should have a security mindset. The MSP should have a security mindset. They all should have that. But that responsibility accountability is the CEO to ensure that, to Evan's point, that, you know, they're not in a box focusing on something where it doesn't impact the business. And everybody should be listening to that CEO on where they want to take the business and what customers they are looking for, and how then the security, and the security first projects, the implementation of stuff promotes that business growth and opportunity. And, you know, to go win one contract and go, you know, get CMMC certified to go win one contract, you know, you have to ask yourself, where's the cost benefit of that? How much are you going to invest in that? And are you going to get sucked into this? You only do DoD stuff because you have to rip out and purge all of your non-government, you know, customers, because you're not going to be able to do both because of the costs associated with it.
Well, on top of the cost, right? Those are extremely long, like sales cycles, right? To try to get
Yes.
one of those deals to close, because you know, when you're dealing with you know, companies that are dealing with government and all of that stuff, it could be an extremely long process to get that actual sale done. So there's that side of things.
And then you,
I wouldn't even treat them like security first rather than compliance first.
yeah,
Just
yeah,
different.
security. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I think as a business leader, you have many risks we need to consider, right? You have compliance risk, you have security risk. So those are two different risks. You have financial risk, reputational risk, you know, lots of different risks. And so as much as possible, separate them out. They're two different things.
Mm.
There's integration between
Yeah,
the
that's a
two.
good point.
Right? Like there's integration between security and privacy, right? They're not different. I mean, they're different, but they're integrated, right? So they're just treat them like they're different things, right? So what are my security risks? If you don't know your security risks, well, that's a good opportunity for you to learn those things and get that situational awareness so you can make good security decisions. And compliance risk, what are our compliance risks? And then treat it like, all right, what would it cost for us to become compliant? But it's not security. You know what I mean? It's like, separate them out as much as you possibly can, because being CMMC compliant, it's completely legitimate. What's the compliance risk of not being CMC compliant? You know,
Right.
CMMC.
Yeah.
And then you can play that game out. Information security, separate thing. If we, you know, that's the biggest frustration. It's not a rather than, it's not an either or, it's just different things.
Yeah, it's really,
Managing them. Yeah.
yeah, looking at it from a different perspective of just doing that overall information security for a business. With all of that, how do we as an industry do a better job of then educating each one of those layers? Because it sounds like you have the CEO, you know, you have the MSPs, you have the cybersecurity consultants, you have, you know, all these different layers of folks that need to get educated on this exact mindset, right? Obviously, we're doing some of that on a podcast like this, but how do we do a better job of getting that information to the CEO, for instance, who, you know, probably is only asking the question because they heard a news story, right, of some big company who had a breach or something? Is there a way to do that? Is that even a thing? I mean, how do we do it?
You know, see, the one thing that's I think a pitfall is no two CEOs are the same, right? So you're
Right.
going to have a relationship with the CEO, because if they're down this path of CMMC, somebody told them somewhere that they had to do this, right? And it bubbled up, and then somebody with trust and credibility and likability told them that you need to be a CMMC compliant. We need to focus everything, drop everything, do that, right? And so sometimes it's an uphill climb, and sometimes it's you take a few left turns before you take, you know, some of the right turns. Okay, fine. We need to be CMMC compliant. I'm going to leverage this because we do it, you know, okay, CMMC compliant, that's it, blah, blah, blah. Well, we're going to do it the right way, meaning the security way. So we can start doing risk management with CMMC compliant. It's not an additional effort really. And then in that process, you have to have a longer term vision with your customer that we're going to build trust. We're going to build credibility with this CEO so that I become the resource eventually for them to, seek out so that we can have that time. It's all about who's in that first circle with them.
Mhm.
I'm not, probably, as a new consultant. So I'm going to need to work my way there or find the avenue that they got their information from. It's almost, I've been accused many times, I think, over the years as a CISO of social engineering the company. That's pretty accurate. I need to figure out, because social engineering is not to take advantage of you, it's to educate you. My job as a CISO is to
Right.
consult you to make good information security risk decisions. If you're making shitty information security risk decisions, well, then I need to figure out strategies to change that. There's no simple solution. There's no
No.
you can tase them maybe if you want, see if that works.
So it sounds like there really isn't truly ever a I am compliant 100% thing, right? Because if you take the mindset that you're saying, or the ideas that you're saying, which is there are risks you take, there's risks you don't, you may not ever be able to check every box.
No, you can be 100% compliant and say nothing at all about security. They're different things.
Mhm.
So if you're talking information, and that's the education piece, you can be 100% compliant. You checked all the boxes. The auditor came in, gave you your letter. You're good. That's 100% compliant. Security? I don't know. We didn't do a risk assessment. We don't know. We can't quantify, where we're at. We can't put risk into perspective. We have no situational awareness here. But you're compliant. If that was the
Right.
objective. So separately, and that's the education point. And so can you be 100% secure? You'd have to define what that is. If you mean 100% prevention, no, you can't. There's no risk elimination. That's not the game. The game is risk management.
I mean, and a perfect example of that from a compliance is like BCP plan. Compliance, do you have a BCP plan? Yes.
Right.
Risk management is, does anybody know about it? Has it been tested? Has it been followed? Is it implemented? Are there hard copies of it somewhere? That type of thing.
Give me
So,
some assurance that this is actually going to save the business versus
correct.
the paper.
Right. Correct.
Yeah, that makes, it
That-
all comes, it
That's the
definitely
cool
is an
thing about
education thing.
us.
Yeah.
That's the cool thing about this industry and the opportunity for good security people is every single organization everywhere, every single one of them, including your home, right? Where you're the CEO of your house, maybe, needs information security leadership.
Yeah.
And so when you talk about the big opportunity, if you're a money motivated person out there looking to consult and make a shitload of money and do the right thing, lead these companies, lead these CEOs to do the right thing, treat compliance like it's separate from information security. There's the integration, but if you learn that, that's where you'll make tons of money, because the thing is you're either going to learn it on your own or you're going to be forced to learn it. I would rather learn it on my own because I don't like forcing.
Being forced, right?
No.
Yeah, I mean that actually rolls right into one of the other questions we had here, which is how do you build that security kind of focus into the culture of the business? I mean, is that doable? Is it how do you get everybody on board in doing that rather than, hey, we have to do this for this compliance task or whatever? How do you get that kind of going in a business, in a environment, organization?
It's like when you drive your car, right? And you come up to you're driving up to an intersection, you see a yellow light, right? You do a risk assessment automatically, right? You're like, go slow. Is the road slippery? Are there people in front of me? Are the people cross traffic? Is there a cop over there? How long ago did that light change? You did all these calculations right away, and then you made your risk decision. I'm going to stop. I'm going to go. Right. And so it's a mentality. And the thing is with information security is it's very mechanical for a lot of people today. It's very not natural.
Right.
Right. I got to think this stuff through. Yeah. You had to the reason why the car thing comes natural is because you grew up with it. It was part of your life. The same thing. Technology is so integrated today with our life that we need to foster that same sort of mentality. And I think you start with leading by example.
Mhm.
And it's not about not using technology, it's responsible use of technology, right? And so getting over that hump of the mechanical, uncomfortable shit it's going to bring to the business initially, maybe it shouldn't take it, it should make us more money anyway, but that's when it just becomes part of the daily routine. I don't even think twice about choosing strong passwords. I don't even think twice about downloading an application and installing it on my app. I'm already doing the risk calculation in my mind.
Right.
That's where we need to get people. That's how you integrate it. It's just going to be uncomfortable at first.
Yeah. Well, that goes back to your comment earlier about the social engineering side for the good is creating those conversations with people of and the analogies of those conversations and using bringing that all together so they get into that kind of that mentality, so they get comfortable with those strong passwords, they get comfortable using a password manager, so it's not this overwhelming, you know, beast that they have to go figure out or fear. I think we also struggle with victim shaming too.
Yeah.
And so when we get into that victim shaming or we in that cycle and the stigma associated with it, then we have people that kind of want to stick their heads in the sand and just ignore. They get into the apathy side and they ignore it's not going to happen to me. It doesn't matter because everybody comes with, you know, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Or when I do something or something happens, it's kind of, I get shamed or I feel internal shame about it because,
Right. I mean, who even wants to talk to most of us?
right, right.
Because we use big words. I've had so many times where CEOs, say like, well, I don't want to sound stupid. I'm like, you're not fucking stupid.
No, you're
And
CEO of a company.
And it pisses me off that you asking me a question, you already start like feeling like you're stupid. No, this is nothing to do with intelligence. This is,
Correct.
and all the complexity, what every organization, everybody should be looking for is simplicity. Understand the components, how these things fit together, breaking it down into something simpler that you can get your head around. That's the situational awareness I was talking about.
Right.
And then build from that. If there are things that you don't understand, find a resource where you can ask them and not feel like a dipshit for asking it.
Right.
Right. Because there's a lot of things that I keep reading. And I'm like, what the hell is that? Because we come
Right.
up with new acronyms, these new stupid things like, and it's just the one that popped into my head. It's not stupid, but zero trust. Zero trust, some guy at Forrester said, well, we're going to give this the name Zero Trust and build this thing around it. It's like, how could you make that any more complicated, honestly? Because it's a foundational principle of information security since I started back in the early 90s. It's trust nothing, or it's default deny. Why don't I just build default deny into everything that I put into an environment? And then I'm pretty much zero trust. And when you say default deny, what are you talking about? I'm talking default deny from user accounts, processes, applications, zero trust everywhere. As opposed to, you read the NIST guidance and it's like, well, set up this server and set up this server to handle all the zero trusty things. It's like, why would I put more shit into my environment if I don't even understand what I'm using today? So I think your best consultants will be the ones that will be able to break it down, make it make sense to people. It's not my security program. It's not my company. So I need to help you understand what this is so that you can make good security decisions around it. That's it. So transparency, compliance, just add more shit to it. You're just adding another layer to the onion.
Two things. Well, when you first asked the question a while ago, Frank, about how do we educate the CEO on what security is, the first thing that popped in my head is what you just talked about, Evan, is a common language. We can't having different terminologies, explanations for all these different things because somebody pops up one day and decides, hey, this is going to sell, this is going to have a little bit better marketing slick on it than this one. You know, that's probably one of the bigger pieces. You know, if we could wave a magic wand and beat everybody, my first one would be that we use the same language all the time in this industry. The second thing, and you talked about it with the zero trust, is I read this article. This is a good point, because I read this article the other day, and a firewall company was talking about the letter N, day attacks. And I've never heard of that before. So do you know, Evan, what is an N day attack? Is that the same as a 0 day attack?
Nonsense day attack.
Nonsense day.
I mean,
so if anybody knows what an N day attack is, please email us so I can understand it. Because I read the article. I didn't understand where they were coming up with N day attacks. And then of course my ADD kicked in and I forgot all about it. So until just now, but
assuming it's just like how we notate, math problems. N is just substitute for whatever number you want to put in it.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, it's just, let's just continue to make things more complicated, right? Because I can come up with a new name for something and it's new and it's exciting. And that's what people buy, right? They buy off emotion, and we need to level the playing field, because good decisions are made when there's a balance between emotion and logic. So stop going emotion like this and bring it in.
Yeah.
Because you also don't want to be super logical, because then you're not going to take into account things like, analog things like people's feelings and,
Yeah. Well, this really speaks to like what you're doing, Evan, with the vCISO course and getting the standardization for everybody doing the same stuff, right? I think that's super important. And Mike Ostra does a great job. You have the set of services that you put into every single environment, and that's really the model that the MSP understood, because you had your remote monitoring and management, you had to backup and disaster recovery, you had a firewall, you had antivirus. These are the basic things you would put into every single environment, no matter what. And I think speaking that language of standardization could help the CEO understand when everybody's talking the same, like, oh, you don't have that? Oh, well, that's something you absolutely should have, right? I mean, then you're creating that. So I think standardization in itself is a super important thing in security and in our industry, because everyone should be doing these basic pieces, right? And then of course you can add on from there.
Yeah, I agree totally. Standardization is not the same, as compliance, and it is, very important. And the frameworks help with that, right? So a good framework helps with the standardization, because then you can reference, like, I'm speaking this language, what the hell does that mean? And you can bring that standard out, and show them. But that would be different, than.
But it's like what you learned, and when you created Security Studio, really, is that all of these essentially speak the same language. They're just saying it in a different way, right? All of these different compliance, regulations, frameworks, doesn't matter. At the end of the day, if you're doing all of these things, you're probably 80, 90%, whatever percentage it is, the way there of that requirement. And so, there's something to be said about doing really good information security. And I appreciate you guys really defining that, separating what information security, compliance, frameworks. I mean, this is just confusing stuff when you look at it all and you're trying to figure it all out. So man, really, really great conversation today. I really appreciate it, guys. We're coming up on our hour here. Any last thoughts? Anything you guys want to get out there before we jump off here?
I think it's, I'll leave it this. It's okay to not know. It's okay, what's not okay is to not admit that you don't know, right? And continue to serve and operate with ignorance. So these things, just like anything, they're important parts of a business. Information security is an important part of business. It's information security risk. And if you don't know, that's cool, man. I mean, we all started somewhere. And so I think finding a resource that you can talk to that's not going to make you feel stupid so that you can get educated. We don't want the fear of education to stop you from getting educated. But at the end of the day, this
No.
is your business and your house. You make the risk decisions. You live with those risk decisions, good or bad. I just want to help you know what those risk decisions are so that you can make your own. But yeah, that's where I'll leave it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And surround yourself with people that lift you up and give you the that don't beat you down or don't ridicule you for not knowing something or giving you the right information. And then also trust but validate. You know, if you have that trusted advisor and they're sending you down a very specific path, go do some Googling, go talk to some people, you know, get some more comfort level in that. So
Yeah, I think that's the best thing anyone can do
I think
is
the
yeah.
best
challenge, yeah.
best question you can ask all the time is why. So
Right.
if I'm advising you to do this or do that, ask me why. If you don't know, ask. And I should
Right.
be open enough to be able to answer why. And if I don't have a why, well, then I better go find a why, because my job is to be consulting you. So I think always challenge why would we want to do information security? Why would we want to do risk management? Why would we want to do MFA? Why would we, you know, ask why? Feel free and comfortable to ask that. And I think if you consult that consistently doesn't answer those questions, then maybe you got a wrong consultant.
Or if a consultant starts with, "That's a really good question, Evan." And then start to suspect that a little bit. That's a good question. Let me answer that for you. Let me explain what MFA is, Evan.
Right.
One of the worst risk decisions we can make, the worst ones we make all the time, are the ones without context.
Correct.
Best way to solve, you know, difficult problems is with multiple perspectives, right? So I have my perspective as the security guy. I need to take on the other perspectives from other parts of the business, and together we create a great solution. What's happening now is
Right.
there's another perspective. It's this way.
Right.
And they might be leading you right off the damn cliff.
Yep.
Man, fantastic conversation, guys. Thank you, Evan. Thank you, Michael, so much for being here today. Thanks for everybody listening to the podcast. If you have any questions regarding compliance, anything that Ostrich Cybersecurity or Security Studio can do for you, please feel free to email info@securitystudio.com. And I like your, let's do chubby face too. And chubby face.
And if you can explain to me what an end day is, that would be great too.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great one. Take care.
All right.
Chubby face. Bye.
Nice.